Hello, welcome to Coffee with Jane. I have got Beau Gold with me today.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
And we're going to be talking about letting go of the past. So I'll just let Riley introduce himself, and then I will, and then we'll start having a chat.
Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Beau Gold, and I'm a coach. I'm Jane's coach, in fact.
Yeah.
So I work predominantly with coaches, business owners, entrepreneurs, creatives, kind of people that have a bigger dream that is to impact more people with what they're doing with their lives. Because I love being able to have that ripple effect of helping people and knowing that they're helping other people as well. And mostly I help people to show up in the world and to show up not only for themselves but in their business as well. But the personal always comes first, because without that we don't have a business, right? So.
That is so true. And I am Jane Scanlan. I'm a coach as well, and I help mainly business owners who are feeling really overwhelmed by the amount of stuff they feel they have to do. They also feel like they've got a big lack of time and kind of space to have that balance with work and personal life. And they're really just searching and almost trying to come out of their shell to gain more confidence, gain more balance in their life, and gain more personal time as well. So, if we're talking about letting go of the past, what does that kind of bring up for you, Riley? What does it mean to you?
Well, it's something that's been quite significant for me, especially over the past year with my transition. So I'm transgender, I'm transitioning currently. And with that new kind of arrival of this like big shift in my identity and things like that. And for me, I didn't know for a really long time. I had these thoughts which I didn't really understand. I mean, I'm shortening the whole story significantly, but so for me personally, I had a lot of stuff that I needed to work through with this new kind of understanding around who I was, in order to kind of be happy where I am now, really, because it would have been very easy to hang on to a lot of the past and really blame myself for not knowing what I know now. And so for me personally, letting go of the past has been something that I have been working on a lot in my own personal life for the best part of 8-9 months now. But probably longer than that. We're probably coming up to a year, because there was a period of time where I wasn't out publicly, but I kind of knew.
You knew, yeah.
Privately as well. So yeah, it's been something which is which I've gained a big understanding of, how to work through that just from my own personal experiences over the past year. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's about well, we're going to get onto that bit.
Yes.
But it's about letting go, but not forgetting, isn't
Yeah.
it? And a massive difference. So, yeah, with me, I did a lot of forgetting. That's why I bring this up, or like blocking out stuff. And that's not releasing the past. That's not letting go of it. So, I'd say over the past 10 years, I've been doing, because I haven't been coaching all that time, but I was interested in holistic therapies and things like that. So I've become a homeopath and various other different holistic techniques. So I've kind of been working on myself, drip feeding. And then the past just over a year now, I've literally been doing personal work on myself, like every single week, and building in a better, more positive daily routine for myself. So that's like trying to do it every day for over a year, and I could really see the difference in being able to let go of feelings. And I'll come on to one of the techniques I use, but I will use it personally for myself as well, is EFT, emotional freedom technique. And it is basically like every event and everything that happens to us has all the emotions attached around it. And it's about letting go of those emotions, acknowledging them, releasing them, and then you've just got an event. You've just got something that happened. Um, so I do often use that, because previously, if I didn't let it go, then I would just suppress it, or my mind would continually bring it up, the same conversation over and over again. Like, how could I have done that differently? How could I, if I'd have said this, if I'd have done that, da, 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 da. So it's almost like constantly it's doubting yourself, isn't it? And just replaying.
I think it's important to note, some of the questions that you're asking yourself are not necessarily, given the context, could be a useful question, right? In terms of what would I do differently? But it's when you're really ruminating on that in a way that is like negatively impacting you, and you're not able to see that situation from kind of like an outside perspective, and you're still hung up on those emotions, that it's not really the most helpful question to keep replaying to yourself, right?
Yes, exactly.
But it can be a useful question to ask yourself, what would I do differently?
Done in kind of the right situation. So if we go on to kind of how we work with our clients, and equally how we work on ourselves, like with our own coaches, so I know, obviously you get coached as well. So how do you help people get through this, and how do you help yourself get through this?
Well, so it's interesting, because I started creating a program which literally we have a whole module on kind of letting go of the past. And I put this module and the kind of program together based on my experience with kind of how I work through, because I'd never really reverse engineered it before. I just kind of, how when you're doing something, you just kind of, you do it, right? So I didn't have a particular technique or way of going about doing it, but now I actually do, now that I've kind of reverse engineered how I tend to work with myself in terms of like letting go of those experiences and working through them. So the very first thing I think is about forgiving and accepting those things, because you can't argue with the fact that they have happened. So it's about accepting it. And a lot of the time I think that those negative emotions really come from a place where we have something that we need to forgive ourselves for, or maybe forgive someone else for. But often when we're forgiving someone else, we're the ones that are hanging on to that pain and that emotion. So it's not necessarily even about them. They may have moved on with their life like long ago, and they have no idea that you're still working through this, and you're the one that's hanging on to it. So so it's about forgiveness, whether that be yourself, or letting go of that need to hold on to it around someone else, and the part that they've played in whatever experience or event that it is that you're ruminating on. And acceptance, like I said, it's we can't argue with the reality of the fact that these things have happened. So that argument with reality is actually what's causing the distress, right? Because we're continuing to bring those emotions and that negative feeling back up for us. And I think it's important to note that acceptance isn't the same as saying like that it's that you want to be treated like that again, or that it's that you want more of the same, right? Acceptance is
massive difference.
Absolutely. So the first part I would say is about forgive yourself, or the situation, forgive that thing happened to you, and then acceptance, just accepting, okay, well, this is the thing that has happened, rather than fighting with it. Because when you're asking all those questions of like, oh, I wish I'd said this or that, etc., you're fighting with it, right? Because it's already happened. That thing doesn't know that you want to change it, right? So the second part I would say is looking at where we're trying to exert control on things, because a lot of the time with the past, we're saying, if we're still ruminating on it, we're saying that things should have happened a certain way, and that's us trying to sort of put control, and then that can affect us in the future, right? We continue to try and control situations where actually, and when I say this, it kind of comes off as quite a scary statement, but unfortunately it's true, is that we don't have a lot of control over the things that happen outside of us.
Yeah.
So it's about, we have influence in terms of the way that we show up to the situation. So that's where when you say, you know, asking yourself, what would I do differently? I think is a useful question, right? Because you're essentially asking, how would I like to show up differently in this situation if it were to happen again, or something similar. So it's about recognizing where you have control over things and where you don't. And again, accepting that, because we can't argue with the fact that we don't really have control over all of these things outside of us.
And I find kind of once you do that acceptance and that forgiveness and kind of take away the judgment, then those things stop showing up in your life anyway. You know, you, like you say, you can't control, like, kind of, you know, what's going on in the outside world. But when you do all that, when you do the forgiveness and the let go of the judgment on yourself and then the situations don't tend to show up in your life for you to learn from, because you've learned that. You've like, tick, I have
done that one.
that lesson.
And it will keep showing up for you until you do. It's amazing how that happens, isn't it?
It really is, isn't it?
Thank you, universe, for always sending me a reason to learn that lesson.
And when you think you've learned it, it just gives you one more, just to test you, and you're like, no, I have learned it.
I got this. Thank you very much.
With love.
Namaste. I would say there's one last part, which I think is about, you know, taking it one step further once you've let go of those things, is actually about bringing gratitude into the situation and actually being grateful for, as we've just been saying, the lessons that you've learned from it. Because it's then not only are you taking that experience and, you know, accepting it, forgiving it, and like letting go of it in terms of letting go of control and the need for things to be perfect, etc. Then you're actually flipping it so that it becomes a positive, right? So you're actually looking for all the reasons, you know, that, okay, that, you know, sometimes it can be difficult it's not always the easiest of things to find a positive in some of those situations, but, you know, whatever we go through, it makes us into who we are today. And I think being grateful for those lessons that we've learned and the opportunities that they've then kind of opened up for us. Okay, it might not necessarily have been exactly what we thought we needed or wanted at the time, but you know, it's so it's flipping it around and looking at it from a different perspective to try and, you know, turn that situation into a positive wherever possible. And like I said, I understand some situations are harder than others, but I think you can always look for a silver lining in things if you choose to. Right?
Yes, I totally agree with you. It's a similar approach to you, the way I work with clients about kind of letting go of the past. And most of the stuff that you and I have worked on, for myself, about letting go of the past, it's regarding relationships, whether that be you know, relationships with boyfriends, or whether that be friends or family. It seems that's kind of the theme of the letting go for me in particular. And I do find that the people I work with as well, it's about relationships with others, and being able to let go and let go of the replay of the situations that you didn't go your way, the way you wanted them to turn out. And it's about kind of letting that go. And like I say, I use a lot of emotional freedom technique for that, because it's pretty simple. One of the techniques I use is I call it the EFT tree. And you just draw a little tree, round circle, stick, a few roots, don't have to be an artist. And round the outside are where the leaves are. And they're the side effects and symptoms of what's going on in your life. Yeah. So it could be constantly replaying the relationship in my head, constantly replaying that last argument, or, you know, whatever it is. I I'm eating so much chocolate now. I feel I'm depressed. I'm da 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 da. All around the outside. Now in the middle, where the branches are, we put our emotions, all the kind of negative emotions that the person is feeling. That goes in the middle, and then down the trunk of the tree goes all the events. So it could be this boyfriend did that. But then the past boyfriend, they're still replaying a past relationship or a past this, or this happened in the supermarket and I'm still really furious that someone pushed in front of me. All of the events happen down the tree trunk. And then you get to the roots of the tree, and they're the belief systems, what you really
Mm-hmm.
feel about the world around you, about yourself, about relationships. And I mean, that is, without the roots, the tree falls.
Mm-hmm.
So with this technique, an emotional freedom technique, we put everything down, and we're just basically, because we're working on the leaves first, and that's very practical. You get to the emotions and the events, and then the beliefs underneath, I'm not worthy of being loved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I'm not good enough. And it's all of those things that filter into every aspect of your life. And that's by kind of doing it that way, it's quite a nice way of like taking off a few layers
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get down to the nitty gritty. Um, and then by then doing the emotional freedom technique on that tree that you've physically written it out, and what pen and paper is like, it's much better, isn't it? Really
Mm-hmm.
has emotion in it. By doing that, you can really release the past, the emotions, and from something that feels like, we scale it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, I'm living this every day, this is breaking me,
Mm.
kind of thing, to one, actually I don't really feel like this is connected to me anymore. Like, I know
Awesome.
these things happen to me, but I don't, doesn't really
Mm.
fit me. So it is really nice to kind of see, and for someone to physically draw that. And for some of the clients, I've worked with some people, they just don't get on with emotional freedom technique, but they really like doing the tree, because they can see
Yeah.
they can just see what's going on, and they might not have to do that extra bit. They could just then question themselves, okay, well, if I don't feel like I'm good enough, what am I going to change? What am I going to do to feel good enough, so I can then let go of these events?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think even just as you say, drawing it out just is a way of giving yourself so much awareness of what's
Mm.
actually happening there, because you're connecting all the dots up for yourself, right? So,
Yeah.
and as soon as you have that awareness over that thing, that gives you so much power to like make conscious choices then about what you're doing, rather than it being like an underlying pattern that's just running for you, which you know honestly probably frustrating the hell out of you, because you're doing all
Yeah.
this stuff and you don't understand why, right? So
Yeah.
having that awareness is really really key in consciously working your way through that and making choices about what it is that you
Mm.
want going forwards,
Yeah, definitely. And definitely the gratitude, like you said. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that is, once like say a year ago, like I said, it's about 14 months ago now, that I just started being grateful. I thought at the time I was in this state, and I thought I had nothing. Very dramatic. Um, and then I was on this like little coaching course, and they said, you've got to be grateful every day for everything. I'm like, well, it's all right for you to say. You've got a good business. And then I started doing it, and I literally started with I've got a really comfy bed and I love it. I've got a really beautiful daughter and I love her and I'm really grateful. And and I just built it up like that, and all of a sudden life started to seem really good.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the past stopped replaying all the time in my head.
Yeah,
Mm,
but it's massively shifting the focus to, what you do want and what you're great, what you have already, rather
yeah,
than focusing on, all these things that didn't go right or didn't work out for
yeah.
you.
Didn't go your way,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly. The way we think it's
The
supposed
way we
to.
think we want it, and it's supposed to
Yeah,
be.
exactly.
Oh, well, fantastic chats. I really hope that this has helped our viewers out there. And I think it will have, loads of good ways of letting go there for you,
Mm,
and loads of good reasons to let go of the past and work towards the future that you want, and the happiness, and bringing more happiness